Hello everybody, it's me, it's Farham. We're here with Path of Exile 2, joined once again by the illustrious Bulging Codpiece. And today we are going to be doing a build guide, in fact the end game build guide, so going over the gear, the skill tree, skill gems, as well as a showcase of a tier 15 super juiced map with map boss, just to show the power of this build and why you should be playing the Infernalist SRS Fireball, not Firewall, Minion Master for your league starters. Why this is one of, if not the best build for getting early currency, stable levels, getting you started in the game. Hope you enjoy this one, guys. Let's start talking then about gear. We'll start off with a general overview of the character tab and a small glance into the skill gems tab, and then we'll talk about how the different parts of gear contribute towards those end goals and towards those limits that we're trying to hit, those defensive barriers, those offensive barriers, bits of gear come into play at which point. So looking at our defenses, one of the most important things, in fact the most important thing, you should actually be hitting this before you come out of the campaign, is to have all of your resistances up to 75%, not chaos, but cold, fire and lightning. They're your main priorities for defenses. They're the most common types of damage. Everything tends to hit with those. If you haven't got your defenses, you will start getting one shot, especially in late keys. This has been made significantly easier with the recent patch because you don't get quite as much malice to your maximum resistance penalties anymore. So that's why I'm so overcapped on cold. Okay, I logged in today for an extra 30% cold resistance, but that's it. The next thing you want to be looking at then is chaos damage. There's quite a lot of chaos damage comes in. As a caster and with a minion frontline, you can avoid a lot of the physical damage, but it is definitely something you want to work towards sorting out. So therefore, you do want to be looking to push that armor as well. That's quite hard to do on this build. There's a few things from the skills that contribute to it, and there's some definite gear choices we've made that will contribute to this as well. We sacrifice some of our mana to get some armor. We also transition some of the physical damage into chaos with maximum chaos resistance. So our actual physical resistance is looking closer to about 63%, which is enough to not get one shot with our health pool. For a health pool, you want to be looking somewhere close to the 4,000 mark. We're just short of that at the moment. We're sitting about 3,850. You've got your life pool that contributes to this, but majority of it is going to be coming from mana. Because of the way this character works, you will be turning you'll be turning your life into both mana and spirit. So getting life is your priority stat, followed then by mana. Energy shield is also good. That converts at 1-to-1 to mana. But yeah, mana, very important stat. It's our main tanking stat. Another stat that's very important, total mana recovery per second. So mana regen, really, really important. There's a few pieces of gear where you can get quite a lot of that. And I would recommend that where we can get that, you get as much as you can. You will get hit. Will cast spells. Being able to bounce back from getting hit and casting spells is all about your total mana recovery. We'll also be getting damage taken recouped as mana up to 70%. Some skills and one item that contributes to that. And in fact, if you took this character up to 100, we would actually be getting that up to 76%. Other than that, and block chance, of course. We'll be getting block chance as high as we can. There's some very expensive gems you can use to get this closer to the 70-75% mark. I wouldn't recommend it with this character. This character should be used really to get you started in the league. It's that sort of build. But you can, of course, sink more currency into it and take it to the extremes. Sometimes I do like doing things like that. But this time I think got it to a good place with 54% block chance. Damage intake seems well manageable. So let's look through the pieces of gear, how they contribute to this. There's one more thing we should have a quick look at, and that is skill gems. So we've got +9 level from global modifiers. That is the other critical stat on our gear skill levels. So let's take a look at what's going on. All right, so our first item, we'll start with the weapon. You want to be looking for a rattling scepter. This will grant you skeletal warrior minions. You want to get the skill level as high as possible, but it's not the priority. 14, 16, 18, all should be fine. Although consider that the higher level that is, the higher the item level. So the higher the item level, the more likely you are to get the rarer modifiers on it. So you're likely to be picking up one that's a high level when you're ready to invest some currency. Your primary stats on this should be a bit of increased spirit. If you can get more than 19%, that's great. The more spirit you've got, the more arsonists you can have. Although just having some spirit is enough. More is slightly gratuitous. Maximum mana is good. Said mana is a stat that we can get everywhere. That's a very important one. Allies in your presence deal 52% increased damage. If you can get this, it's great. It's quite expensive. And minion level of all minion skills. That's the most important one. Level of all minion skills and increased spirit are the two you want to get, followed by increased damage. And then things like crit chance, max mana, max life. We picked up reduced attribute requirements here. We didn't necessarily need it, but we've got it. It was just on the item. If you could swap that out for something a bit better, I think it's a suffix. I think maybe you could get intellect or strength or something like that. Help with your stats here. That would be sort of premium. But you're going to be looking to be paying quite a lot for something like that. You can also get +5 and I think maybe even +6 minion skills. Again, gratuitous for what we need. So +4 is fine and in the affordable range for getting a character ready that can do tier 16s and do all of the endgame content. So moving around onto the head. Opted for pure energy shield here. You could go for an armor energy shield hybrid, but they're a lot more expensive. Your primary things on the head are going to be making sure you've got resistances. You're going to be making up resistances where you can. You're going to have to figure out where to fit those around your build. Can't recommend exactly what resistances to get on what piece because it's random, right? But what is important here is the +2 level of all minion skills. You also want to be getting as much energy shield, life, mana as you can. If you've got an armor helmet, if you're lucky enough to get an armor helmet with minion skills and energy shield, you want to get up percentage armor as well. That'll really start boosting that physical resistance. Moving around to the shield, go for a full armor shield. You want to be getting as much armor and block chance on this as you can, as well as maximum life. Again, life, mana, they're very good things to pick up here. If you're going for a high strength shield, then getting the reduced attribute requirements is definitely recommended. Otherwise, you'll be short of intellect nodes to get your... Well, you might be, unless you can get intellect on a few places on your gear. You might end up short of intellect nodes to get level 20 skill gems. Max life, mana, those things, all good. Use it, and again, shore up resistances where you can. Shield is another great piece, plus 40% is max, so get some good resistances there. Looking then at the neck. You want to be looking for something that has plus level of all minion skills. +2 is fine. The +3 one's a bit expensive. I splashed out, treated myself a bit. But that +3 level of all minion skills is what you really want to get. If you're looking to pump the physical resistance, this is quite an expensive stat to get as well. You want to be looking for the 32% increased armor. That's a very good skill to get. And with regards to the delirium bonus, got battle hardened because it gives us more armor and evasion rating as well as critical damage and some strength and dex, which we need. The increased armor is nice, the reduced critical damage bonus is nice, but more importantly, this is quite a cheap upgrade. The perfect upgrade would be the one that increases your recoup speed by 25%, but that thing's costing multiple divines. It's really not worth it at the moment. I just go for something simple like battle hardened. But really what you're looking for, those minion skills. Again, if you can get mana and the increased armor %, maximum energy shield, those things are all good too. So then looking at our rings, or looking at our first ring, another place here you can balance out some good resistances, but we didn't need to, so prioritize again life, mana. Cast speed is a very much a nice to have stat. Get enough of it, you can actually get the cast of Fireball down to 0.86 seconds. It's costing 69 mana. I thought they were the other way around, but oh well. Anyway, and they've also got the really important stat to get on here is 63% increased mana regen. Not necessarily 63%, but a high roll of mana regen. You can see on the other ring as well, we've got 70% increased mana regen rate. Not too many places you can pick up this stat. Rings are one of them, and it's a reasonably cheap stat to pick up there. On the other ring, we've used this as a bit of a stat stick, getting some intelligence, helping us get to those skill gems. Again, the rings really we've focused in on resistances. They're both got all elemental resistances. This is actually what's overcapping us on the cold. I'd like to change this out. Basically this ring is overcapping the cold now, but it wasn't before the patch. But the main thing we've gone for here is the mana regens, picking up a little bit of life and a little bit of intelligence. That's fine. This ring certainly could be upgraded. Then we've got gloves. In fact, let's go with the body armor. We skipped right over the body armor. One of the most important pieces. So for the body armor, I would recommend picking up an expert shaman mantle. They are both energy, shield, and armor, which is perfect. If you can afford to do it without sacrificing resistances, including chaos, I would definitely recommend 40% increased armor, evasion, and energy shield in your rune slots. It's very powerful. You definitely want to be getting spirit here. The higher roll spirit you can get, the better. We got quite a low roll spirit. If we had just a little bit more, we could get one more Arsonist. I'm talking if we had 3 Spirit more, we could get one more Arsonist, but we are where we are. Again, using this to balance out some resistances and looking for that increased armor and energy shield. This is one of our biggest sources of physical resistance, so we really want to get that. And then again, looking for that maximum life. Maximum life being preferred because it gives us the extra spirit. Can't get life though, get mana, get more energy shield, all are fine. Right, then moving around to the gloves. So the gloves again, we've used these as a bit of a stat stick, prioritizing mana, prioritizing armor, energy shield, their armor energy shield ones, and just using these to round off stats and resistances. Lastly, well, not lastly, there's one more item to come after this. On the boots, you want to prioritize movement speed. You definitely want to prioritize movement speed. Get 25% at least, otherwise you feel very slow. You want the armor energy shield again. Use these once more, round off those stats, round off those resistances. Make sure you can equip your gear. Make sure you're hitting your resistance caps. Get that maximum mana. Get that life if you can. Increased armor and energy shield. Those sorts of things are what you really want to be looking for. Really boosting the defensive stats of your character. And the last item is the belt. Now this is the one unique we'll use for the build, and that is because of the 50% of damage taken is recouped as mana. If we do take damage, it just sends our mana regen through the roof. It's just recovery when you need it, right? You don't need it corrupted to have the fire resistance. I was really lucky. I corrupted it myself and that came in. You can get these much cheaper without a corruption on them. Yeah, we're overcapped by over 21%, right? We actually don't need that. In fact, we're exactly 21% overcapped, so we exactly do not need that. So don't worry about the corruptions. Just pick one of these up, try and corrupt it, and see if you get something cool on it. That's the real thing to do. And then do your charms. I've still got an amethyst charm equipped. Just take whatever charm stops whatever you hate, or if you can't get chaos resistance capped, grab an amethyst charm. It will get you that chaos resistance cap when you need it, when a poison hits, when something like that happens. So grab one of those if you can't get chaos resistance capped. Otherwise, chaos resistance is quite expensive. Last two items that we're going to look at. Flasks. I personally like recovery applied instantly, particularly on our mana flask, and I like increased charges. I can spam this thing 11 times as fast as I can press the key, and it's going to heal me for, well, let's just say 120. It's going to heal me for 1,200, let's say, thereabouts, which is over a third of my mana pool. So if I do take a big chunky hit, I can recover in a panic. Useful to have. It's nice to have a panic button. So that's the gear. They're the sorts of priorities. Really looking for those minion skill gems. You're picking those up on the helmet, you're picking those up on the neck, and you're picking those up on the weapon. Looking for those armor energy shield pieces. Looking for that spirit on the chest. Making sure that you're probably sitting around the 3/8. You want to run a cleric and 10 arsonists, which I would recommend. You want to be sitting at 373 spirit. Yeah, 373. If you can get to 379, then you can run. If you get to 390, then you can run 11 arsonists. If you can get to 390 spirit, so that should probably be what you're aiming for. You can also pick up spirit on the neck, but it's so expensive. The build doesn't need it, right? At some point, if you can afford it, right? Obviously, get it. It's going to be better. But you know, there's upgrade options. There's always upgrade options. There's always something you can buy to make your character better in Path of Exile. But that's the gearing. So let's move on to talking about skill tree. So here we are. Scariest place in Path of Exile, the place where all the magic happens. Skill tree. We're going to talk first off about the crossover between gear and the skill tree. I think that makes sense, right? And that is the skill gems. So we're going to be wanting to look for something quite specific on our gems. In fact, there's two ways you can run the jewels. At the moment, I'm running 5 of one kind and 1 of the other. That's because 1 of the other is very good. But for our heavy defense set jewels, we would want to be going 2% max fire resistant and increased defenses from equipped shield. Now, the defenses works with both the energy shield and armor components. If you go for an energy shield armor version, you will get a lot more of a lot more of a hit point pool. Although I do believe having that extra physical resistance will give all rounder, so I go with that. You can also get block chance on these, but it's super expensive. I wouldn't bother. I would just get the fire resistance and equip defenses from shield. The other option you've got are on the blue gem side of things, where you can get minion damage and mana regen rate. This is an almost perfect one, and it gives us 2 other things that we like in area of effective curses and debuffs, so I've kept that one around. You can run 6 of these and you'll do a lot of damage and have a lot of recovery. but you'll be taking quite a bit more physical damage, and in some of those end game keys there will be things that might kill you in 1 or 2 hits. That's really what we're trying to avoid with the build. So that's what we're going with there. Now let's talk about why we want that 2% fire resistance and start off with the ascendancy of our skill tree. So fully ascended, we're going to be starting off taking our loyal Hellhound. 20% of damage from hits is taken from your Hellhound before you. Flat 20% DR. Perfect. Great. As on the left-hand side, we're taking Altered Flesh, and this is where we want that. This is why we want that max fire resistance. So 20% of cold damage and lightning damage is taken as fire damage. That's taken with the 85% resistance. That's great. 20% of physical damage is taken as chaos damage. That's great as well. Our armor's only at 48%, so that's what gives us about an extra 15% chaos physical resistance there, taking us up to about 63% reduce, which is fine. It's enough. Going on from that, we're going for the maximum mana for life and the maximum spirit for life, and then we're reserving half of our life pool. That's why we want the life. We want to get our spirit up, right? The more life you can get, the more arsonists you can have. All good stuff. So let's now look at the skill tree, and we'll start off talking about the big boy nodes, the big fat ones around here. We've got Eldritch Battery, so all of our energy shield is being converted to mana. That's good. The mana operates exactly like HP, so chaos damage doesn't go through it like it would with an energy shield, so this just makes our energy shield actually work as hit points in equations. That's buffed by Mind Over Matter, where we're actually using our mana as life. Okay, we drop 50% of our recovery rate, but that's fine. We're going to be stacking up enough to overcome that completely, so that's fine. The last one we want to take is Whispers of Doom. Now, this is kind of optional. I like it because you can run a very defensive curse, which is very good against bosses or particularly tough elites, or when you're stuck in rituals, Whispers of Doom can be quite good. If you don't want to run it because you already like casting one curse, that's fine. You can take that one out. And now let's generally look at the tree pathing and what we're going to get here. So this character is currently sitting at level 89. There would be some other skills I would recommend getting, but I think for the priority of running defensively, doing tier 15, tier 16 content, this is how you want to build up. So you want to go up, grab the minion damage, and go up to get the mana recovery rate, the mana regen. Definitely what you want. Down here you want maximum mana and increased maximum mana, as well as minions revive faster. When you get a spare point, you want to take this minions revive faster, but you don't get anything from the 2% of life. So you want to go around the tree this way, grabbing that maximum life, grabbing the movement speed for your minions. You don't need the accuracy, they're all accurate enough. You want to grab this gem slot. Gem's very important. There's 6 you're going to grab. You want to come up around here, grab your mana regen, grab your maximum mana. I needed the intelligence. If you're fortunate enough to get away without the intelligence, you could save these nodes. But you want the 20 skills. So if you want tier 20 skills, you might need to take these nodes, in which case take them. Minion resistances here. Get those minions nice and tanky. Keep going round. Up here, you can go up for some reduced mana reservation, making the most out of that spirit. It will get you towards the end game. It will get you another arsonist. It's well worth grabbing. Down here, you want to go for your damage taken recouped as mana. You don't care about life regen rate. We've got like 1 life regen or something, but nice mana regen nodes are up here too. Down this part of the tree, there's more elemental resistances, more max resistance for our minions. Get them nice and juicy, nice and strong. Area effect and cooldown recovery rate, always good to grab. Minions revive faster. Just grab that tree there. You want to come down here to grab the jewel slot. And then you want to come up here, grab, well, you've already got this jewel slot. Then you want to come down here. There's a bunch of minion nodes here. Damage, elemental resistances, life. Grab them all. Then you want to come down here to the thing that looks like the shield. Your priorities are going to be your block chance. That really does help your block chance. It's going to take you from like 40 to... you want a defenses from equipped shield, especially if you're running an armor shield. It's going to get your fizz resistance right up. And people keep saying this is bugged. And yeah, it is bugged. The energy shield bit doesn't work. But the energy shield bit wouldn't work for this build anyway, because the energy shield's being converted to mana, and I don't believe that effect gets applied before the conversion anyway. But the 60% armor works, and that works out with a big armor piece like we've got, of being about another 7% fizz damage reduction. So you want to grab that just to round this off. That's where the tree would look at 89. Now there's options as we progress through here. So if you find somehow by some weird thing that's happening that your minions are dying to chaos damage, you can come and grab this for your next 4 levels. That shouldn't be happening. If you like pressing 2 offerings, I don't. For your next 3 levels, you can come down to Lust for Sacrifice. Get 40% increased minion damage. It's actually really good. I just don't like pressing the extra button. It's really, really good though. You could even probably sack these 3 off now and grab that if you go for damage. But again, I like the fizz damage reduction. This is about survival. If you want to look at your own survivability and your own tank, I actually would recommend going down here. There's another 6% of damage recouped as mana here, so that's another 20% based on what we've got. Right, we've got 30 left. 30% of the damage isn't being recouped. If we get 6% of that, well, 20% of what we actually have left. That's big. As well as there being like another 40% mana regen. So that would be what I recommend on this tree. It's really tanky, and the damage is more than sufficient, as you see in the map showcase. But let's move on to the very last part of the build and what you should be looking for with your skill gems and how you should set those up. We've got the gear and the passives, but how do we bring all that power to bear? Well, that is, of course, with our skill gems, and we're doing things a little bit differently. And that's mostly because I really, really don't like Firewall. I can't see what's going on. When you play in high keys, you don't want to be taking consistent amounts of ground damage, because it will just chip away at you. Even with the best build, unless you're doing some sort of armor stack or aura stack, I don't even know if that exists, this one, right? Unless you're doing something like that, you're going to get chipped away at. So we're playing with sort of visibility in mind. That being said, Flame Wall is still part of our arsenal. We can use it if we need, but our primary method of summoning our SRS is actually going to be Fireball. So we'll start off with that skill. So Fireball, you cast it, hit something, the heads appear. In fact, it summons 9 heads at once rather than use 5. That's got to be a bug, by the way. I'm sure it should only summon 5, but all of the exploding circles also summon heads, which is great. But on our Fireball, we want to have Arcane Tempo for more cast speed, Inspiration for supported skills have 40% less cost, Mobility, because running while casting is quite important. If you can keep your movement up, I personally like that. I can't think of anything better to put in there, so I feel like Mobility for that, being able to react a little bit faster, is the one you want. With all of those skills and with it at level 19, it will cost 69 mana, which is absolutely premium. Exactly what we want, right? But that's our main right-click attack. We still run Firewall, and we still run it with Fortress. The reason we run Firewall is because it does give the projectile added fire damage. It's minute. It works out about 2.5% damage on the Arsonist. But in a long boss fight, and there are a couple, dropping this around them will help, right? It will be that bit faster. So we do keep it there. It is there. It's just not being cast all the time. We're keeping up that visibility. So there are our main fire spells. What are the fire spells for? They're for summoning Raging Spirits. So Raging Spirits is our aura. You turn it on for on here. When it's on, anytime you cast a fire spell, you'll unlock Raging Spirits. You want to get this as high a level as you can. So we've got ours sitting at level 19 at the moment. And for the gems that you want on this, you want Feeding Frenzy, Fire Mastery, Minion Mastery, and Primal Armament. You get a 5th slot, then I think it's one of the elemental gems that increases their fire damage. There'll be a spare one. Getting a 5th slot on this, though, really, really expensive. Wouldn't necessarily waste your gold on the perfect... waste your gold? As if anyone's selling these things for gold, eh? Waste your divines on such a thing now. If you can Val to it, though, then why not? The other main damage, or in fact our main damage, are our Arsonists. So our Arsonists are our 5-link, and I would recommend getting the 5-link on these. It's worth it. Again, these should be your priority for upgrading as your skill levels, and in order of priority, the support spells we are putting on these are Scattershot for extra projectiles, Martial Tempo for more attack speed, Fire Infusion for extra fire damage. Support skills cannot ignite, but they gain extra damage against ignited enemies. Don't worry, other things will ignite. And Fire Penetration for getting through the enemy's fire resistance. For supporting these things, making sure things are ignited, we've got the Infernal Hound. This comes from our skill tree. And on this, we've got Splinter, so they break up, they can break armor. Fire Exposure. On igniting an enemy, they ignite anything in an area, so they're always applying fire exposure. Maim, and Maim reduces movement speed and evasion rating, increases the hit chance of everything else, and Culling Strike, so if they do hit things, they will cull them. Also supporting and applying debuffs are the Skeletal Warriors that we get from our mace. Their meat shield, just so they last for longer. They've got blind, so they will stop enemies from having as much accuracy rating, so they won't be hitting us or our minions so much. They've got physical mastery because this gem exists and I didn't know what else to put in the slot, so I just gave them an extra level. That was nice. And ruthless, so that they build up extra stun. Stunning things is good, especially bosses. They don't do anything when they are stunned. Further supporting spells, so some of our spells that we press less often, but that increase our damage quite a lot. The main one is Pain Offering here. So this has more area of effect, but 6 seconds to cooldown. Fine with that. I don't cast it more than 6 seconds anyway. It gives minions extra elemental resistances, although this is overkill unless we are in a elemental weakness or the enemies apply some sort of elemental exposure, then this helps there. And persistence, they have more effect duration. On what else we've got to go? Oh yeah, flammability, the main curse. So these are the two skills we cast a lot. We've got ritualistic curse, giving it more area effect, but increasing its delay. And I stuck focus curse on it because that reduces the delay back down, and then it casts at its normal speed. And we've got heightened curse for 25 increased effect. So this strips away enemies' fire resistance, and like 70% of our damage is fire. We've got a cleric. We have one because we can afford to have one and can't afford an extra arsonist. He has last gasp and ingenuity, so he resurrects people when we put them on the spike. So if we put someone on the spike, no skeletons were lost this day. The cleric just got them straight back up. We also have Bone Offering. I don't use this very often, but I don't use it very often, but it's got Font of Blood and Font of Mana on it. Honestly, you could swap this out for Blink if you had the spare spirit and you like Blink. I personally don't like Blink, so don't run it in the build, but if you wanted to have more mobility, then you can run Blink, either run less Arsonists or get Spirit on your neck. Be able to run that. And they're the skills, really. That's how that comes together. That's what we're using. We're right-click casting Fireball, heads are killing everything. We run around, we put some curses down. If it's scary, we put extra curses down. Yeah. I guess the only thing really left to do is see this build in action. Alright, so that's the build. They're all of the parts. I suppose it's only worth us rounding this video off with a showcase of just how it performs in a map. So we've got a map here. It's got a boss and it's got Delirium, so it's got a pretty hard map modifier. It's got a pretty hard boss modifier. We've got a tier 15 corrupted, juiced up map. It unfortunately didn't go to 16, but yeah, we've got additional monsters, additional rare monsters, large packs. So there's going to be lots of juice here, lots of potential, and let's just show just what this build can do. Jumping into the mire. A lovely loading screen. Oh, here we come to stop the human sacrifice. It's probably one of my least favourite maps, the mire. Somewhere where this build actually suffers because you can get trapped by things quite easily. There's going to be big old packs of stuff just spawning around us. But we should be able to make it through here. So you can really see what's going on using Fireball. Use it to sort of scout over the bridges. Just fire a Fireball ahead. We've got great cast speed, costing 69 mana a cast, of course. That's very important to the build. Without that, the build does not work. I'm joking, of course. It's not important. I just like it because it's funny, and it just happened to fall that way. It was not planned. So we'll just keep clearing. See, if I start putting down curses, stuff will start dying very quickly. Not really using the curses at the moment. We're just sort of spamming. We'll take this Researcher Strongbox. Hopefully this doesn't ruin our Delirium, but we're already up to 3 stacks of Delirium, so skill damage level 17, don't need that. Need level 19s and 20s, of course. Might just be able to stay in Delirium. Unfortunately did not, but that's okay. See, the Delirium monsters weren't even touching us. That was a very nice, that was a box that could have potentially given us lots of currency. Let's go find the boss and go hunting these elites then. We can see how quickly it even got up to 33% there. Up to 3 stacks, sorry, 33%. So I'm so used to seeing them go to 10 or more. You know, Path of Exile 1. Clearing whole maps with super juice, but you know, life's a bit different in Path of Exile 2. Pace is a bit slower. You can see we don't even need to use our curses, we don't even need to use our support abilities. The DPS is absolutely fantastic, and you saw there we're taking a couple of hits. Mana doesn't even move. Our defenses are absolutely solid. We can even really walk into the enemy and just have a really good time. We can have a proper disco party with them. We'll do a bit of rolling. I don't know. Nothing can really kill us. These guys might hurt a bit, but I mean, that fire damage, not even touching us. We're basically indestructible. Loads of other damage types are being converted. Physical is a slight concern, but even when you consider some of the physicals being routed through chaos, we're just fine. We've still got about 63, 64% physical reduction, which when you consider how quickly we recover our mana, we would have to take a lot of hits very, very quickly. We're not even running an optimal charm at the moment. I would suggest just picking a charm for the status effect that annoys you the most. I will be going with a frost charm to stop freezing. I hate being frozen. Possibly stun. I haven't decided yet. That's why we're still running the chaos one. It's not because I've run out of Dolted and can't afford to change my charm at all and don't have a stash full of them. It's not that at all. And you see, we're walking through. I can basically play one-handed. You know, you can have a drink. You can do whatever else you like to do with your spare hand. I personally am left-handed, so there's a lot of things I can do quite well with my left hand. I'll leave what they are up to your imagination, of course. And let's keep prodding into this. Prodding in. If your imagination was taking you to a prodding in place, then I guess more power to you. Soon there will be a boss, and the boss might be able to actually hit us, but the thing is, we're not reliant on any sort of spawns. Like, our defense is our defense at all times. It's static no matter what we're fighting. Fighting packs, fighting single targets, you know, we just are what we are. I like that consistency. My builds, I don't like them to have spikes and then low troughs. I like them to be consistent through all content. I like them to be able to progress. Don't get me wrong, I like them to do big numbers as well. But there's a couple of things I like to do first. So that was an example of us taking a few chaos hits and some physical hits. You saw they got through about half of our mana, but that was back up by the time I had actually started talking about what had just happened. So our recovery is very good. I've swapped some of our recovery just for raw defense. There's a couple of ways you can build this. You can build into minion damage and mana recovery gems instead. That is very good. The damage increase is very tasty, and the mana regen helps you with your sustain and your bounce back. But I found that with running that build, certainly there's a few things, certainly around the tier 14, 15, that can one-shot you. Boosting that physical resistance up, it's just sorted out. It's physical hits and things that you've really got to worry about, and with these gems and this setup, it's fine. There's even more you can do with the gems. You can go for block chance gems, but they are very, very, very expensive. So I wouldn't recommend them. It's fine like this. I would recommend this build is more of a league start, really. You take it up to this investment, you can do all of the content. I would suggest there's probably going to be other builds that can do it faster, but this thing can farm you the currency relatively quickly and do whatever content you want and whatever sort of appeals to you, while you think about and plan your omega characters, your game-breaking characters, your armor stackers, your aura stackers, your all the other things that GGG like to ban. Start to plan all of those. Actually, I don't think armor stackers ever got banned. Armor stackers are so complex, though. Building one of those is crazy. And I don't know if they're even possible in PoE2. I'd have to go diving through Path of Building, but these things are all available now, so tools are there. We can rebuild them. We have the technology. And we'll try not to get hit by the chaos. We don't really want to eat it. We've got max chaos res, so I mean we can eat it. It's not a big problem. We've got a 54% chance of just avoiding damage as well, which is nice. It'd be good to get that to 75%, but it's, as I said, they're the really, really expensive pinnacle things you can do. I'm not sure how worth it is to do that on the build. Because, again, I just don't think it needs it. I think this is premium. It's a good balance between defense. We've got more, as we continue to get levels, we'll be getting more minion defense, more minion life. There's a couple of nodes we can get to really either increase the damage by using 2 offerings. I personally don't like that playstyle. But it is good for the damage, for sure. I just find it a bit awkward and clunky, so I don't. Or we can increase our own defenses and our own mana regen. Quite a lot. We've got about another 40% available near us. We do need to get a couple of other intellect nodes as well, just to make sure we can go to those level 20 skill gems. Minions, of course, really benefiting from those skill gems. So getting those skill gem levels is really going to be where you get your power spikes. I think we're short 1 minion skill gem level, or possibly 2 across what we could get on gear. Again, those very last upgrades are very expensive. Not sure they're worth it. Would save those divines, save those exalts for the. And now we can see the power of this, and you can see the DPS at the top there. You guys can tell me that was 1.6 million. We're probably doing about 400k DPS, and that's not even spec'd into DPS. That's spec'd hard into our own survivability. That's really the power of the build. It can just carry you through this stuff. So yeah, that's what the build can do. that's what the build should look like as you're getting to the level 89. If you guys have enjoyed this, don't forget to hit that like button. It really will help. And if you want to see me do more of this and you're not subscribed yet, maybe hit that subscribe button. If you guys be interested in seeing a leveling guide for this and sort of how to step through the different phases, because you don't just go straight into this build at the end, do let me know. I can put one together. Plenty of people out there that have put together build guides, though, for the SRS build. I think that a lot of people are going CI and that sort of thing. I wanted something a bit more consistently stable across all content, and I think this has landed it. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next video. Have a good one.